It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
It's time for the Riley and Ridge Show, presented by Jackson's on Bronco Nation News. The Riley and Ridge Show takes you into the locker room and the coach's office, giving you a unique perspective on Boise State football from two guys who know a thing or two about what it takes to win on the blue. Combined, they have nearly 3 decades of coaching experience, none of which came from Riley Smith. But he played for the Broncos and won 52 games and 2 Mountain West championships during his 6 years. Kent Riddle won 7 conference championships during his 13 years as an assistant coach at Boise State and has 29 years of coaching experience overall. The Riley and Ridge Show is presented by Jackson's, where 25 cents from each hot dog sold goes directly to the Horseshoe Collective to support Boise State student athletes. Visit a Treasure Valley Jackson's location today. Now, here's Riley Smith and Kent Riddle for another edition of the Riley and Ridge Show, presented by Jackson's on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, Bronco Nation? Welcome back to the Riley and Ridge Show. We are sponsored by Jackson's, and we're back here at the James, and we got an awesome special guest today. We got big man Garrett Curran, former O-lineman. That's why I got the O-line pride shirt on today, trying to rep him, and thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
It's
awesome
pretty
to have
sweet.
him here.
We even have our own intro now.
Yeah.
So we're finally official. It's pretty badass. Got a lot of cool clips in there.
Absolutely. Thanks again to Jackson's for sponsoring the show. Fired up about that.
No doubt.
It's a big deal. We'll figure something out. Maybe we'll do something live from a Jackson's.
Yeah.
Tape some segments.
Get some lawn chairs out there, and I think that'll be awesome. That'll be great.
Yeah, the Jackson's on the corner right by the stadium is sponsored many fall camps without them even knowing it.
That's what we said last time.
Imagine how many times I bought an energy drink or freaking can of chew or something stupid that I shouldn't have been having during camp.
Yeah.
A lot of trips have been made over the Jackson's.
There's definitely a lot of coffee,
Yeah.
a lot of energy drinks,
Yeah.
bangs, whatever. And,
Oh,
I'd hate to see the Copenhagen Zin.
That's what we were saying. We were talking about
Like
Zin sponsorships
like
and
a
NIL.
like a team tally per year on that would be
That would be electric.
an
Probably should
astronomical
be
number.
trying to get Zin to sponsor some stuff.
They could.
NIL.
Albertsons Stadium.
Sanford might have that locked down. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's some good
I've
stuff
seen a
lined
couple
up.
things with
That's
that.
awful.
So
Speaking of fall camp, though, I was walking in today and saw the band out in the parking lot getting after it. Dude.
Yeah.
Shout out Blue Thunder Marching Band. Those dudes are always out there. Excuse me. Those dudes and those ladies. Every fall camp, they're always out there grinding too.
They're
yeah, they show up. I think that's something probably goes unsaid. I mean, those people all get here, 2-3 weeks early, and they are out there. I mean, we might have to go inside because of the air quality. It's like the band's just out there grinding.
Oh,
away,
they're grinding.
breathing, like air quality, whatever,
Yeah.
Whatever.
And they get us going too. Like we'll walk from the stadium to the field, and they're playing
They're always
the
out.
intro and the fight song, and it fires us
and
up
at that
for
part,
sure.
it's awesome. And then when the drums are going, I
Yeah.
will say sometime around after that, when we used to have 2 practices, you could be in the office like, could it just stop for a few minutes, please?
No doubt. You
Got the whistles ringing in your ear.
Yeah.
The percussion going. It's like, okay, all right.
Endless metronome all day long.
It's crazy.
Ding, ding, it's
I
awesome.
swear,
No,
I
it's
just heard
great.
it a minute ago, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
It's awesome. But
as always, please fire away with questions.
Oh,
We
yeah.
already had one for Coach Bedell. Unfortunately, I do believe Coach Bedell is unavailable until tomorrow morning at 9 for a new show with BJ. So you might want to fire that one in.
That's
there.
awesome.
From O-line coach to media personality.
Yeah.
I never would have seen it.
Oh, just wait. Yeah.
Shout out Mason Willis too. It's my little cousin back home.
Nice.
So fired
nice.
up. He's about to be a Gator, so he's repping the other orange and blue.
Very good. Well,
But-
it is that time of year, and Garrett's got a new baby, which we'll touch on here in a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
But I just dropped off my youngest, my daughter, at college, TCU this weekend. So Kaylee, hope you're watching.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah,
but-
that's kind of funny. We were sitting in our little team meeting this morning in my office, and people were talking about first day of school for their kids, and I'm like, that's when I knew right away I'm old and washed up.
Yeah. Yep.
Got kids going to school, and that's the conversation.
You're
in the morning
close.
where
You got a couple more
I'm right
years.
there.
You're close. Yeah. Why don't you take us kind of through the transition out of football into college? Because me and you were both grandpas last year,
Right.
6-year guys,
6-year guys.
finished up, and now you got a lot going on. And
Yeah,
it's
so-
been awesome to be able to see you grow and see you in that area and transition. So kind of take us through those steps.
I guess, we'll go back to when I found out that I was going to be a dad. It was the weekend of the San Diego State game. We were at SDSU, and that was a later kickoff. And then San Diego Airport has that noise rule or whatever the hell it is. So
Yep.
after a certain
Cool.
time, you can't
The
fly
bus
out of San Diego.
ride to Ontario.
Yep. So we had to take the bus ride on an already kind of a late game, get back, land in Boise. Gosh, had to be 2 or 3 in the morning.
Late.
Go to the locker room, turn in all the travel gear, all that good stuff, get changed out, drive home. Her and I were already staying in an apartment together at that time. And I'm using the restroom, getting ready for bedtime. I look on the counter,
Yeah.
damn pregnancy test sitting there. I'm like, what's that? Saw it. I just had a whole realization.
Yeah.
And I peeked into the bedroom, and there she was, wide awake. Had to be 4 in the morning at that point. I'm like, wow, this is really what's going down right now. So yeah, that happened, and then
crazy.
we found out really early in her pregnancy, so had to keep it under wraps for a little while just to make sure.
BJ taking off. Sorry to interrupt, but we just want to wish him good luck in his softball game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no
He's-
more injuries.
He's
this
going
week.
yard today.
part time.
Today's the day.
part time.
Yeah.
Anyways, found out early on, had to keep it under wraps just because how pregnancies go early on. It's higher risk stuff. Finally got to a point where we were a good ways along and started comfortable with sharing. Hardest part about it was having to keep it from my parents, because I definitely felt like at that time that's an in-person conversation. It's not
Yeah,
a,
right.
It's not
Yes.
a text or a phone
Yeah.
call.
Hey, Dad.
Quick
By the
text.
way.
Hey, Dad, by the way, so we had to wait until I think it was the Wyoming game was at home. So it was several
that the
weeks
next
later.
game? Or
No,
that
it
was weeks
several
later?
Weeks later, yep. And the way we broke it to my parents, well, hold on. We told her mom immediately, her family's in town. She's like, I can't keep that from my mom. That's my mom. So we told her mom right away. Just had a little dinner together. That went great. And then told my parents when they came to town to watch the Wyoming game. We went over after the game, and we ended up buying them mugs and put them in a little gift bag. And
That's
they said,
sweet.
promoted to grandpa, promoted to grandma, right?
That's
So,
sweet.
handed those to my parents, and we were kind of sitting there, and my mom read it and saw it first, and she looked up wide-eyed, was like almost crying, and then my dad was like, oh, my dad was shocked, and
Yeah.
he ended up shedding some tears. Once he found out he was going to be grandpa, I was crying a little bit. Once he found out it was a boy, he was going to be crying a little bit. So yeah, it was a whole deal. But carry that through the rest of the season, and started letting some of the boys and some of the coaches know as well. And I had a great support group, honestly, through all that, because that's a lot on your mental. Like trying to play college football and
Absolutely.
still be,
Yeah.
a productive player who's a sixth year, supposed to be in somewhat of a leadership role, still setting an example.
Yeah.
Thank God I already graduated at that point. So
I'm being supportive and trying to figure out a future, right? And plan for the future.
So,
and we did get a comment on here from Abby, I believe your sister. It said, best dad ever.
Auntie Abby.
So, be remiss not to pass that along.
All the way from Lake Havasu, Arizona. Nice. Anyways, so to getting my job, I now work for ESI Construction as a project engineer.
Yes, sir.
Shout out ESI, right? Several alums worked there, both guys that we played with, as well as guys from, older dudes from previous generations. So I'd already built some relationships there just from, ex-alums coming on the field after the spring game, or, players that played with current teammates' dads and going to pizza after games or whatever the heck it was. So I kind of got that conversation started during the season, like, hey, this is a situation. And at that point, I'd also pretty much made up my mind that I wasn't going to pursue an NFL career at all. Being a dad, there's a lot that goes with that. And I knew that as good of a dad as I want to be, and how much harder I would have had to push myself physically in the place that I would have had to take myself to mentally to be an NFL player, to make a roster, right? I didn't feel as if I could execute both of those well enough.
Yeah.
So I made that decision to go ahead and understand that, hey, I'm done with college or done with football after this season. And
your body a little bit probably telling you that too.
Yeah,
right?
No doubt.
Definitely battled through injuries.
Definitely
over your time, and
as every player does. That's something that's every guy goes through it one way or another, and that can weigh on you at times. We can get into that on a a little later in this, but anyways, went through the whole interview process. There was a sit down lunch, there was some phone calls, the whole nine. My degree being communications rather than something like construction management, which is what ESI would prefer for the position that I have. I started as an intern this past January.
In the dirt.
Yeah, that was a great experience, though. I got a little bit of the office stuff and understanding, just a sneak peek into kind of bidding projects and, what managing a project looks like. But a bigger part of it was actually hands-on out in the field working. So I was on a pipe crew for a little bit. We were doing a water line for a high school in January and February. So it was snowing and just cold.
Great work environment, right?
Yeah. Just thrown into it.
Yeah. From one set of trenches.
No worse than being in O-line.
Yeah.
So
one set of trenches to another. That's fact.
Yeah. No, it was exactly what it was. But it was great because I worked with a pretty solid number of our foremen and a lot of our operators and laborers within the earthwork division. So built some relationships with those guys, which is great now, given that I'm in the office and having to kind of manage and take care of some things. It's real easy to bridge that gap and contact somebody that I already have a little bit of a relationship with, rather than calling some dude that I don't know and never really talked to. So that was a great experience. The plan was for that internship to last through April, because ESI was extremely willing to work with me on, benefits and insurance and all that stuff. They knew that I had a baby on the way. So my son was due in June, and they're like, by late April, we'll be able to sit down and decide whether or not you're worth it or not.
Right.
I guess. But
my team.
Yeah. See if I made the cut or not. But thankfully by March, so it came early, I got the full-time offer and accepted that immediately and been rolling with it ever since.
That's something both you guys probably could talk about a little bit, but just the support through the community and the opportunity through, you talked about meeting former Broncos in the business world and all that. I think guys here, we touched on it a little bit over the course of the broadcasts or whatever podcasts, but if you're willing to take advantage and go above and beyond, there's certainly people out there that are looking to help you out. And
for sure.
It's one of the things that's really special about part of the Bronco Brotherhood.
Well, talking about that, I think Riley and I kind of went through different paths. I like I said, went through the interview process with ESI, but that was it. I put all my eggs in one basket. I knew that was a solid company. I've heard that, they treated employees fairly, and if you worked hard and were on point, then they treated you as such. So I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. I'll be able to prove myself and let it roll. Riley kind of went a different route. I remember hearing from him that maybe he was going to move back home to Florida, and he was kind of a little more all over the place in the sense that he didn't just pick one. He went through several interviews, that whole deal. But I don't know, you can speak to that a little bit.
It's crazy when football is over for an athlete, especially someone that played for 6 years and that feels like it's your life. It is a whole new world on figuring out what you want to be good at. And in our mind, we transfer everything we learned in the football into whatever new arena of life you're going into. And so for me, it was like, I know I'm going to work really hard and try my hardest to be successful in whatever job it is. Now it's what field do I want to go into? And that was the hardest thing for me. And especially whether to stay in Boise or move back to Florida. I think right after the season, I shipped everything, cleared house, shipped everything back home to Florida, and then ended up wanting to stay out here because this is a hard place to leave. And like Garrett said, I met with ESI and just fell in love with the company and decided I wanted to work there and stay out in Boise. And so had to ship all my stuff right back, which was not fun.
Yeah.
But it is tough. Like trying to figure out what you want to do.
Well, and you guys both had really kind of already eliminated the football part of it. That's a whole nother deal, right? When you start like trying to figure that in the mix, like, well, do I not?
Because I wanted to coach too. So I was thinking about coach. Do I go coaching or many different avenues?
What was Coach Keen's line? It was, don't coach. You have a master's degree. What are you talking about?
I tried to meet with Coach Keen and was thinking he would give me some feedback on like hyping me up to coach. He's like, didn't you just get your master's degree? Why did you come coach? And so I guess I took his word for it. Yeah. But then there's guys like Dimitri Washington who are coaching and we got to go to the scrimmage this last Saturday. And I saw him out there and he had the biggest smile on his face. It looks like he never left the team. So,
absolutely.
So many different avenues. And like you said, I think Boise State and especially football does a great job of getting us around people and trying to figure out our future ever since you step on campus. Because a lot of people have tunnel vision to go to the NFL. I mean, there was times where I was the same way, but once you start talking to former players and figuring out the real world and knowing that you have that support, it's unbelievable.
And really some of the events that they do to connect and everybody.
Right.
Bronco Life
does an amazing job.
On that, the individual that, I interviewed with and also hired me, I actually met at a Bronco Connect event held at Albertsons headquarters, where all student athletes are welcome, but it's really geared towards juniors and seniors, and then business professionals within the valley. And I wasn't in the room that they were in. They kind of broke us out, kind of by major, what your career path might look like, and then they opened it up the last hour to kind of let you cruise around and mingle. And I knew that Queso was back there, so I just wanted to go chat it up and say what's up to him. But that was kind of also another little leg in the door. So Boise State has always definitely provided kind of that opportunity for what's next after school, after ball.
Absolutely.
And that's something that even through, our career was really harped on. It's like the percentages of high school to Division I on a scholarship is small. And then from Division I to NFL is even smaller. So
we want everybody to come in here believing you got a chance to play in the NFL, because if you don't believe it, it'll never happen.
Right. 100%.
Right. But if you do, and you do everything possible, you at least give yourself that opportunity.
Right.
And, I think generally by the end, most people kind of know, like, hey, I'm a definite NFL guy. I'm a no chance guy, or, maybe 1%, or hey, I think I got a chance if I
that's the hardest.
Do all the right things. that is the hardest. And it's a little different for everybody sorting that out. It's never the same.
No doubt. I think this is a good point in the show. You guys are flooding us with questions, and it's awesome. You guys are doing a great job. I have a lot of good, interesting ones. This one's good because this is a great question to ask. From Jonathan, he said, "Who's a dude that that would be hard to block on the D line? Or I guess let's say who's the hardest person you've had to block on the D line through all your years?
Oh goodness.
Give us 2 answers. One
Yeah.
Bronco and one opponent.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, I can't narrow it down to 2. I got a couple of decent little stories. I'll start off. So in high school, I played right tackle. I was recruited as a tackle.
Yes, you were.
My first year here, I played, tackle in practice. Wasn't playing yet. I didn't make the transition to guard until, season 3. So 2020. 2020.
Yeah.
Right?
COVID.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyways,
19 or 20, one of the 2.
so it was a inferno practice. For those of you that don't know what an inferno practice
Which
is.
actually helps us because that answers another question. That
Yeah.
came in.
Okay.
Says our Inferno practice is fun.
Okay. So, and for whatever reason, a lot of our game 1 for several years in a row was in the South.
Like this, they just had an Inferno today. It's Georgia
good.
Southern.
So we played at
Yep.
Troy. We played at Florida
Or
State.
State.
Right. So it's week 1 in the South, and it's hot and humid, right? That's a different climate than Boise. So that's something you have to
That's what I'm
prep
used
for.
to.
Right. So basically inferno practice, you go into the indoor, it gets locked down a couple days in advance. They turn the heaters on, they spray the field down, and the heaters are running during practice. So it's
I believe I saw today, it might have been BJ that tweeted it out, but I think they had it to 98 today and 67% humidity.
Pretty
Right.
good.
so that's
It's pretty
That
good.
simulates game day pretty close.
Yes, that's pretty spot on.
I would even go on to say that it is worse than what natural hot and muggy feels like,
because you're trapped in there too.
you're trapped in there. There's the air's not flowing. The air that is flowing
Yeah.
is
No
coming
breeze.
Dark
right out of a heater,
it's
right?
miserable.
And it's even worse for the O-lineman. Shout out the O-line,
Yeah.
because we are in a corner of the end zone for our individual periods, and there's a massive heater directly above us. So you're just dying. I remember my first Inferno practice. I got to a point mentally where it really starts to wig you out. Am I going to be okay right now, or am I
Right.
going to die? And I just remember the only thing that I thought would work, I grabbed, gotta love the athletic trainers. They always got the damn Powerade baskets with our bottles full of ice and water. And I grabbed one of those and unscrewed the lid, and I poured it directly down my pants and directly down my shoulder pads. So cooled down the chest and the groin. And I went, okay. Whew.
Well, I
Wake
would
you
say
up.
this too. In a lot of ways, the practice is harder
Yeah.
because there's no extended breaks. I mean, for the starters, I mean, the typical reps by the time you get to that are 6 on, 3 off, 4 off.
Right.
You know, and back for
especially
6
during
more.
camp,
and
the Blues are taking a big majority,
And
then your Orange are
individuals,
rolling in.
individuals hard. I mean, it's it's I mean, you might go on a 10-play drive in a game, which we did against Florida State a couple times.
Right.
And but there's maybe a couple shorter plays.
Yeah.
Right.
You got a few minutes, and then the drive's over and you go hang on the sideline. You got TV timeout.
Right.
Yep.
You got a special teams. You got defense.
And
you got
it was extremely tough, but if you really go back to that Florida State game and watch, as imperfect as we were at times, that it really was the difference, because they had guys that started
absolutely
cramping up,
Yeah.
that whole deal. And we had the football gods on our side a little bit, but part of that's making your own luck. But the boys were in shape.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all it boils down to.
Like I was joking last time, my parents left the game because it was so hot and humid, and they're from Florida before we kind of gave in. It was
moving it up to noon.
Oh my goodness, it was brutal.
There was no shade.
And now is the difference
no
maker.
shade at all.
No.
That whole weekend can be its own side conversation. Let's get back to that
It
first
could
question.
be.
It was the hardest people I've had to block, right? So at that time I was playing tackle, Curtis Weaver. Okay. I ended up being on the man side of 6-man slide 3 times in a row.
That's
in
awesome.
a pace period.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not Yep.
And then I think we had a mid zone or something to my side, but let's just say I gave up 2 sacks a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit in the course of 4 plays.
How many push-ups did you have to do for that?
Oh, that one was at least 250.
Yeah.
Curtis was very tough to block
Slippery.
on the edge.
Curtis
right?
was.
Yeah.
You know who was a sleeper that I would say one of the artists for me was probably Shane.
Shane Irwin.
He's hard on the edge.
He's not even a sleeper. He was
was
really solid.
like, I remember every time we had to do like a edge protection for a QB rollout, and he knew it. Somehow he knew every single time. I think it was if we looked at him the wrong way, he was like, I know you guys are coming down to block me.
Well, don't say somehow you knew. I know exactly how they knew.
Yeah.
I've always had this theory.
Script.
They definitely
That's
peaked
the
script.
downside of offense and defense.
That's
on
a
the
great
same
point.
Network. It's so easy for you to look at our fucking
They just look
script for that
straight
day,
through
dude.
our
Oh,
scripts.
don't even get that.
Watching the install tapes.
Oh,
yeah.
Know
They-
exactly what's coming.
I think they
you guys have a perfect blitz today.
Yeah.
We installed counter today, and you have the counter beating blitz installed today. That is convenient.
Yeah, they're elite. They definitely probably watch more film on us than anybody else. But Shane was always good because he could do speed to power, or he would just juke me and drop me and make me touch earth, which was always brutal. But there was a lot of good guys. I remember we were talking the other day, like when I switched from QB to tight end, my first practice, we did some sort of circuit, and it was Jabril Frazier and Sam Witt, and I had to block them back to back, and it was
another one up there with toughest to block.
crazy. And it was literally like Rudy. I feel like
Sam gave me my first welcome to college.
Yeah.
It was I don't know, early mid-season. I was a scout team offensive lineman, and I was playing right tackle. I just had a little backside gap hinge. I'm like, oh, no big deal. I just got to step down, make sure that linebacker's not coming, and then I'll just stand there and make sure Sam doesn't run through me. Well, Sam ran through me and bench pressed me through the moon into the backfield, through the running back, and I was upside down looking at the sky like, wow, that guy is definitely a lot stronger than I am. Holy
very
hell.
strong. It was elite.
Anyways, and then back to I think Ahmed is another one.
Ahmed's
That's
very good.
Really tough. He's first off just kind of naturally freaky strong.
Yeah,
Very strong.
I mean, that's a guy that his second year in, he was putting up 400 pounds on the bench press, 400 plus.
He's pushing pyramids.
Yeah.
You go back home, it's crazy.
But I will say, hopefully he's listening to this at some point. Every now and then, right, because he's an edge player, but every now and then he'd get all high and mighty, and during individual one-on-one period, he'd want to get a rep as a 3-tech, and I was playing guard, and it's a little different world.
That's a different world. That's the trenches.
I understood how to mess with him just enough to where once I got my first inside handoff, I more often than not would get the better of him. But that was always good competition because he's a great dude. My first experience with Ahmed, this is kind of a trip. We were sitting under the bleachers in the north end zone, having our chicken and rice bowl after practice, hanging out. And he was sitting there by himself because I think he was a freshman at the time. And I was going over there like, I haven't talked to this dude yet. Like, I'll just go meet him, hang out for a second, whatever. And he was towards the end of, finishing up his chicken bowl. And I sat there and started eating, and we started chatting a little bit. Then, whatever. It's tough to carry a conversation with a brand new individual.
Yeah.
So it went quiet at one point, and it was silent for like 5 minutes straight. It felt like. I'm sitting there. I'm like, "You all right, dude? What's up?" He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's you. You sat down and you're eating, so I'm gonna sit with you until you're done eating." And I was like, that was just, I don't know, part of his culture. Like, you eat together with people.
Yeah.
And it's like a respect thing that he showed immediately. And I was just like, oh, all right. Well, that's the type of dude he is. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was a cool, genuine moment. And he's a really good dude.
He's a really good dude.
So
Yeah.
He always has your back.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, kind of going off another question, B-Town asks, who's the best trash talker on the defense? And we always talk about the DBs and the linebackers, but who's the best trash talker up front in the trenches? Because I would say, especially last year, me and Ahmed would go at it.
Yeah.
And it was always fun because same thing. They knew the plays. They knew when I was going to come down and block them. And pre-snap, he would be like, I know you're coming. And I wish we could cut in practice.
Yeah.
I would never want to hurt my guys, but I was like, we would be chirping at each other all the time.
It's funny. That was always one of my things. I'm like, hey, we won't actually cut them. Just tell them we can cut them.
Yeah.
And watch how different
exactly.
it is. Right. Yeah.
But he was always good because we always had fun with it. And especially at the very end of practice when we would be doing 2-minute drill. And we were both probably worked up from something throughout practice, and we would just unleash it on each other. It was awesome. But
Curtis is another guy. I don't know if he was a good trash talker.
He would just
talked a lot.
Yeah.
The trash talk line that will forever and always, universally, for every freaking team, go to your corners and your safeties. It just
100%. Yeah.
But I will say there's been a handful of times where they're out yapping on the edge, and we're crossing in between periods, and I get a little jab in on somebody, and I know just enough about what had happened to them during a practice or something they messed up to get a good little dig in, and I've got some great reactions out of those guys. And that's always the best, is when in passing get something that's just enough. Where you're supposed to be running off because the next group's coming on to run their team period, and you got somebody hung up on the field still that's supposed to be on the sideline, like engaging as your back's to them running off. That's a great feeling. That's a win right in the books right there.
That is a win.
Uh-huh.
That's a team win for the offense.
guy I always thought was unbelievable, and he didn't talk much trash, but when he did, it stung. It hurt you. It was Avery.
He would get personal. He would find some dirt on you somewhere.
Much. He was maybe not at practice, but he definitely had a big personality.
Yeah,
so he's always talking about something.
Him and Hank, because Hank's a personal trash talker too. I'm not telling Hank anything about myself. He's gonna use it against me at some point.
Avery,
but they would go at it, and those were the best battles for sure. That practice.
Avery's funny. So during fall camp, during the Harsin era, we had 30 to an hour for lunch.
Yep.
Right. So we'd go grab lunch and come back to the locker room, and I got this Fat Joe, I think it's called, but it's an air hammock. You just put it in front of a fan and it blows up. And gosh, during fall camp, that is the best thing ever. But I'd sit there, and Avery never took a nap. Never. He'd always be sitting there running his mouth, talking to the Van Buren or whoever it was,
his partner,
dude. And they're just talking about stupid shit, and I'm sitting there and it's hilarious. It's hard not to laugh. So I'm sitting in the corner 20 feet away, not involved in the conversation whatsoever, laughing, and then Avery would hear me laughing, and then he'd call me out and start talking shit to me in the locker room. I don't know. Avery's a character, and
he's a character,
great dude.
Especially during camp. That's the way to get through it.
And just one of the smartest guys. Ever.
Very smart,
very witty, and
definitely.
So it's great to see Ave back on the field.
Yep.
Shout out.
We
to
had
Avery.
a lot of great Broncos out.
He was out last year with the torn ACL, back in his first preseason game, so that was big.
Look good.
A bunch of guys. George had a big weekend.
Touchdown.
George scored a touchdown.
Good.
I just saw
against Alex.
Where's Scott Matlock at? Oh. George scored the touchdown. Sorry, Scott.
Sorry, Scotty. You should have been there.
I know it. No, I'm happy for George. Yeah,
that's big time.
He's, George had a couple of ups and downs through his career with injuries, but I think, gosh, if he gets a handle on that figured out, he's incredible.
I saw a deal. They stunted and created a matchup, and George just comes across the quarterback, picks it up, locked the guy down.
Block,
Avery was the other one I was thinking of. They stunted and got the D tackle loose, and Avery runs in there and just locks him down. The guy doesn't move an inch against.
Awesome. Those guys
That's going to be one of the more rewarding things as an offensive lineman. Offensive line, you're studying defense, like the box. That's your job through and through, right? And, through the course of a week, was it our Thursday practice? It was our Thursday practices where that's like our third and long day. Right?
So, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we did it again Thursday. And
so, and you're getting ready for that. You're prepping for all the weird personnel packages and different stunts and blitzes and movement, the whole deal, right? So as an offensive lineman, you're really tuned in to what that defensive does in that 3rd and long situation. And running backs, are absolutely involved in protection, but they got other stuff going on as well. They're not nearly as in tune to that as we are. But
no, not even
when you get a running back group that does get that buy-in and is dialed in on those 3rd down packages, and the communication is flowing, and they are picking up our hand signals,
and that's always been a big deal at Boise State. Probably better than most. Not that nothing bad's ever happened, but guys very dialed in, and to see the guys, like whether it's the O-line, the quarterback, the receivers, whoever, like come over and know that the running back like helped make the play, or I think is some of the times like an O-lineman maybe kicks out and gets a piece of an extra guy because he already dominated, and everybody recognizes that happened and celebrates it just like they threw it or caught it or whatever.
Right.
I think it's
pretty awesome.
That's something that's kind of happened here over a long time, for sure.
That's how people get on the field in the NFL too. If you're running back and
no question,
you're a new guy and you're being able to lock people down like that.
That was the deal I saw. It was a guy breaking it down and all the different things George did. Playing special teams, had a tackle on a punt cover. I mean,
it's huge.
I can't guarantee for a fact George is going to make the roster. I don't think anybody can, but I bet you they keep him around, whether it's practice squad, roster, or whatever. And, having a couple guys over there that are Broncos, and Tyson Prince probably had the most direct connection to George. But,
TP.
But Zach Hill had George for a year. And Scooter Huff obviously knows about him. So
it's awesome.
And even all the guys in Seattle know about him. And, so
we're gonna have to make it up for a game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I definitely got to go see Georgie.
I'll be there.
Yeah, it'd be sweet.
To this day, I don't think I've been to an NFL game.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
this is our time.
I know.
Now I'm ready to tailgate.
Yeah.
Any type of game.
Ready to be a fan.
Now that we're out, it's gonna be great to be a fan.
Absolutely.
But right now we're kind of at the halfway point, so we'll do a quick little message by our sponsor. Take about a 2-minute break, and when we come back, Garrett, you can kind of break down a little bit what this O-line pride means.
What O-line pride means,
and that mentality of an O-lineman. So we'll be back very shortly. So here's a message from our sponsor.
The Treasure Valley freestanding Taco Bell stores are hiring. Check out TacoBellWorks.com to apply for a job. Great promotional opportunities, free food while you work, half your wages the next day after your shift. If you're looking for a new job, think Taco Bell. SON Management Group and the Nicolason family, and TacoBellWorks.com. Taco Bell serves up some of the best breakfast in the Valley. Try the breakfast sausage quesadilla, the breakfast California crunch wrap, the toasted breakfast sausage or bacon burrito, or the breakfast crunch wrap combo. Bronco Nation News thanks Taco Bell, the SON Management Group, and the Nicolason family for their support. Get more information on their impact on the community and apply for a job at TacoBellWorks.com. Check out the Blue and Orange Store for all your Boise State gear. The blueandorange.store.com has great deals on the latest hats, jerseys, sweatshirts, jackets, bumper stickers, car flags, and more. Get the latest Ashton Genty Heisman shirts, the NIL gear, coaches sideline apparel, and more. You have many options when it comes to buying your Boise State gear, but you won't find a better and bigger selection than the Blue and Orange Store. Thanks to Travis Hawks and company for their support. Return the favor and shop at the Blue and Orange Store and get ready for game day. Again, you can shop from anywhere online at theblueandorangestore.com or check them out the second floor of the Boise Town Square Mall. The best way to start your day is at Jackson's. Step inside Jackson's food stores and discover convenience that goes beyond the pump. From fresh brewed coffee and delicious snacks to a wide selection of groceries and everyday essentials, we've got you covered. Jackson's supports Boise State through NIL deals for Ahmed Hassanin and Breezy Dubar. Don't forget, 25 cents from every hot dog purchase from a Treasure Valley Jackson store goes directly to the Horseshoe Collective. Snag that free banana when you buy a fountain drink, coffee, deli sandwich, or wrap. Find a location near you and sign up for Let's Go Rewards at Jacksons.com. Check out Snake River Pool and Spa, Idaho's #1 local dealer for over 45 years. Whether it's a hot spring spa like the Rains family has, or a pool table, sauna, patio furniture, and more, check out Snake River Pool and Spa. Locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game are proud partner of Bronco Athletics, supporting the Broncos pools and spas. Check out thespateam.com for pricing, brochures, financing options, specials, and more. Whether it's a hot spring spa, a pool table, or an air hockey table for the game room, Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game has it all. The Raines family recently purchased our hot spring Limelight Flash Spa, and we couldn't be happier with the purchase. The installation process was easy, and the spa was up and running in no time. Check out their full inventory and turn your dream into a reality at thespateam.com. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers. That includes the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer in the country to support an NIL collective. A portion of the proceeds from each sale of the Horseshoe Golden Ale go directly to Boise State student-athletes via the Horseshoe Collective. Western Collective's beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, are available at most major retailers in Idaho. Western Collective, the studio sponsor at Bronco Nation News. Our title sponsor at Bronco Nation News is rowpaint.com. For over 23 years, Row Painting has built a name synonymous with excellence in the painting and coatings industry. We serve a diverse portfolio of clients, including residential homeowners and homeowners associations, commercial businesses, general contractors, and industrial site purchasers. All of their clients receive the peace of mind that comes with expert project management, safe, skilled, and experienced painters, and professional-grade equipment. They provide a stress-free experience while solving your painting needs. They've completed more than 11,500 projects, including the back patio and garage in the Raines house, and they can do your project next. Our title sponsor, again, check them out online, roepaint.com. Give them a call, 208-991-0567. The official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics and the title sponsor of Bronco Nation News, roepaint.com. Idaho Central Credit Union has been helping members achieve financial success for more than 80 years. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket with free eBranch mobile and online banking. Don't have time to run to the branch to deposit your check? No problem. With Idaho Central Credit Union's mobile deposit feature in the mobile banking app, you can deposit your check anytime, anywhere. See why over 500,000 members love Idaho Central Credit Union. Again, that's 1 in 4 Idahoans. Make the switch today at iccu.com. Lithia Ford of Boise supports Boise State Athletics as the official car and truck of the Broncos and through NIL deals with Jonah Dalmas, Andrew Simpson, Ahmed Hassanin, and Matt Lauder. 4 Boise State football players rocking vehicles from Lithia Ford, as well as Paige Barsh from the volleyball team and Brooke Patterson from the women's golf team. The fall kickoff sale is going on today at Lithia Ford of Boise. Check them out online. View their full inventory of vehicles at lithiafordboise.com. For your next car or truck purchase, think Lithia Ford. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Most of them I'm not gonna beads.
But we could say they're in Spanish, sometimes Spanish, sometimes.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We little break for the boys, and now we're here to talk about kind of some O-line pride and what that means. I know for you guys, it's really important. And when I finally decided I really want to be a football player and switch from quarterback to tight end, I kind of took on a little bit of that as well. I mean, the tight end room works a lot with you guys, and we get to kind of be in the trenches and try to earn that badge of honor. And shout out Dante Harrington for blessing me with this shirt. Had to do a lot in the trenches and a lot of crack blocks and rim blocks to attain this shirt, but it was worth it. But kind of take us through what you guys talk about and what it means to you to kind of have that O-line pride.
Yeah, that's a question I've kind of been thinking about all day. Ultimately, it boils down to, like, at the base level, offensive linemen are violent protectors, right?
Yeah.
Your job, you got a quarterback, obviously, you're trying to take care of. You got a running back that you're trying to pave the way for, right? So that's your basic level. But in that also, I think of an offensive lineman as a guy who should always be willing to shoulder, more of the task than what he's asked to, right? Like, he's got to be willing to put that on and take that on himself. I think you have to be a great locker room guy. Like,
Absolutely.
That's something I'm definitely proud of, was just like the relationships that I was able to build with all the different folks within a locker room, because a college football locker room truly is just a melting pot of people from all over the place, right? So be able to kind of shuck and jive with all the different groups and be able to hang out and be one of the boys. And I think you got to be like the nicest asshole on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Like just be an individual.
Some guys do a better job than that.
Yeah, right.
Right. Be an individual that your team is glad that you're on their side, you know, and make the other side go, God, that fucking guy, I really wish we weren't playing against him, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of elements to offensive line that go unseen. You know, that's the name of the game. That's why we play offensive line. It's you know, first to be blamed, last to be recognized, but be okay with that and be more than okay with that. Like, be proud of that. Like, yeah. I'm doing this. I know what I'm doing. I know what the guys in my room are doing, and I know that most of the people watching just have no clue. No clue whatsoever, right? Like,
yep.
You know, Ashton Genty just broke off a 75-yard touchdown run, which is awesome. But I got a 2 on that grade because my first step was, 2 inches less lateral than it should have been, or something ridiculous, right? Like, you're going to be nitpicked through failure and success. And yeah, being okay with all that. And
whenever everybody recognizes Ashton, like when he busts one of those out, or whoever the running back might have been, but I think back to, I think there was a play against San Diego State last year.
Oh yeah,
like
the most.
I mean, the whole. I mean, he ran 20 yards
without even getting touched.
Without not even being like, I don't even think we looked at it.
Yeah.
It's just such a clean line,
beautiful.
the backside, moving everybody downfield.
It is.
That was a great example of our scheme working together how it should, right? The combination of mid-zone, stretching a defense laterally, and then, your duo moving people vertically, right? And getting the defense off their foot on guessing which one's coming, because if you're anticipating one and you get the other, you're going to fail.
You're done.
And, it was Matt Lauder on the backside.
Absolutely.
It was legit.
Had the guy like 7-8 yards downfield.
All up in that.
And we appreciate you that see that out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's that was a special play. That kind of helped him gain the confidence last year.
Yeah.
That was a huge play for him.
On the flip side, Ashton.
He makes everybody look better.
Good. Yeah.
There was a play, I think that same series where we totally botched. Awful, just embarrassing. People in the backfield, he breaks tackles in the backfield, reverses the field, and gains like 8 yards, and it should have been a 6-yard tackle for loss. So your job as an offensive lineman gets a little easier when you got a guy like that.
No question.
Yeah, for sure.
But the best guys play off each other, right?
Absolutely.
Great line, great running back. It's not always going to go perfect for either one.
Yeah.
But, that's part of it.
And you guys set the tone too. Like when we go and we start our drive and we have our sniffing salts and we're about to head out for that first drive, we look at the O-line and we say, set the tone, show us what this game's about to be like. And we always talk about, like, we need to establish the run game first is step one on how to win a football game.
Absolutely.
And so when we go out and you guys have a dominant first drive or you pancake somebody, the whole defense on the sideline sees that. When they go out to play, that fires them up for sure.
No question. And that's when the trash talk starts.
Oh, yeah. That's when it starts. And also, I have a question. In your mind, because you see anytime a quarterback gets hit late or one of the prima donna wide receivers gets touched late, the O-linemen are the first people to sprint over and just deck them. What is that kind of like mentality? And like, that's your role. You guys are kind of the goon of the offense.
You in particular, I think were always worried about me when I was getting a little loose at times. And believe it or not, I was more under control of myself and my emotions than you believed.
It did in your eyes. I did not see that.
For sure.
You've only had like one personal.
You really were good. It was just when it was the end of the game and Garrett starts talking trash, I would look at him and be like, please, please.
So wrong. You're talking about the Air Force game.
Yes, exactly.
Let's go to that.
I'm like, please do not do anything.
So Air Force has this deal where, the end of the game, like when we're going to kneel it and just wrap it up, their nose will always
swipe at the ball,
jump off sides, right? And he did his deal, came up with the ball, was looking at the ref, and I don't know how it happened, but I was standing here, he's right in front of me, and the ref is right here. and he was doing something, saying something to the ref, pleading with the ref. All I did was just swat the ball out of his hand right in front of the ref.
It's innocent, right?
But no, that caught my 15. I caught 15 against.
I'm like, Garrett.
I caught 15 against New Mexico because there was a pick or something. I think Hank got smoked, and then I cracked somebody. I've had a couple, but all of them were for I had the right thing in heart. For the
that's
boys.
what Bedell said last week. He said, with this push-up chart, if you had a personal foul, unless it was way out of pocket,
you got one.
One of those.
You have those.
Bedell had a rule.
But
Yeah,
he would take
you
those.
one. He gave you one.
Yeah.
He would eat one for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that sets the tone, and that's kind of that bodyguard mentality that you guys have. And I got to kind of be a part of it for the Texas State game, that bowl game, when they hit Talon out. And my first instinct, I must have been hanging around you guys too long, but it was just to sprint into their sideline and start trying to fight people. And that has never been me.
I instigate that one.
I did, and it was me. I'm surprised you weren't coming back and me calling me a hypocrite.
Back to the question about what O-line means. I got a really good story about Roger Curran. Roger's first start was against Texas El Paso.
Yeah.
A game we lost, a game we did not play well as a whole. Roger was put in a position due to, guys being banged up, injuries. It happens. Like, he was just the next dude up. And that's another thing in Boise State, like next man up mentality. Like, you got to always be prepared, which is true. But a little bit of an unfair position for Roger to be put into because he wasn't ready. I think he was a true freshman.
He was.
Time.
Yep. He was definitely a true freshman.
And, he had a little bit of a rough outing. But Roger, being the type of guy he is, and the type of offensive lineman that we try to recruit, right? He's talk about OKGs, our kind of guys. Roger is our kind of guy. Fast forward to the Washington game last season, right? Roger's first start after that El Paso game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, we didn't win. That happened is what it is. They were a great ball team. We could have done better for sure. All that. But Roger's prep, that whole off season, he had a chip on his shoulder legitimately and quietly. Like, it wasn't, no, I let you guys down constantly. I'm going to do this to be better. He just went after it, took care of business. Right. And Roger had a great game. Like, he really played well.
He had a great season.
He did. Yeah. He's a good player. But that Sunday, right, Coach Keene, I think, obviously those two behind closed doors had some conversations about kind of what that meant for Roger, what his state of mind was and all that. And he finally shared that with the room. And, what he shared was extremely moving. Like, no, he's like, I let the room down in that El Paso game. Like, no excuse about it. Didn't try to write, I'm a young guy, whatever it was, nothing. Just took complete accountability for that situation. And was like, I'm embarrassed of, what my performance was and what I did to the room that game. And I promised myself that I would never let that happen again. Right. And like, in a room full of, during the season when it's just a travel squad, right? You got your 12 guys in there and your position coach, right? That's a very tight, intimate group. And that was some real emotions shared by a real dude who put in some real work to improve himself.
That was actually one thing I was going to say. You talked about protecting the quarterback, making the running back's job easier, blah, blah, blah. But, I think the other part about O-line pride that I've observed since, Coach Strasser brought it here like in 2001 and maybe even before that, but, was taking care of each other and really respecting each other and getting to know each other and, really being brothers as much as the whole team. Like, the O-line's by far the tightest group.
No doubt. A little too tight, honestly.
Chill out. No, but it has to be that way because we do rely on each other so heavily. Back to that Washington game, that was my first start at center, right? So I had kind of an interesting role in my later years, right? I have played, I've started like 3 games at right tackle. The majority of my games have been between left guard and right guard.
Yep.
And then I've started 7 games, I want to say, at center. Never got to play left tackle, but 4 out of the 5. So I was kind of a do-it-all guy towards the end.
Swiss Army knife.
That conversation happened in fall camp. I think 2 weeks before the Washington game. Mason tore a ligament in his toe, which doesn't sound like much, but I mean, that's a tough deal. It puts you down and out. So Coach Keene, Hamden sat me down like, hey, here's the situation. You're playing center, right? I'm like, hey, let it ride. Here we go. And I was comfortable enough with the offense at that point and had enough football knowledge that, like, I wasn't concerned with that whatsoever. I knew I would have the ability to get the offense on the line on the same page,
right,
and get things rolling. But let me tell you, it is a whole heck of a lot different. Like, just thinking about the stance of a guard, my big toe is running through the midfoot.
When you get to use your both hands, right?
Right.
Yeah, I can have a little bit of weight in my hand, right? I got a little bit of a stagger, right? It's a way more advantageous position to be in to move somebody.
Right.
Center, your feet are square. You are totally neutral in your stance. You don't have weight on the ball.
You got someone right up under you.
And that's the other deal, right? Like, I am the line of scrimmage. At guard, my head is lining up with the center's hip. So space. I got, a yard to play with right there. That's an advantage for me.
Right.
At center, that doesn't exist. It's right now. I'm in a bad spot. My hand is going to be between my legs by the time I'm touching you. Like, it's just goofy,
Crazy. Shout out K. Connie, because
yeah, he got it done.
That is tough, no doubt. That's why he hit with his head
fastest
first,
marathoner.
In the I'm never gonna live that down. Fastest marathoner I know. It's the new David Goggins. Yeah. You did.
Just so everybody knows, K. Connie's roster height was like 6'3". That's a lot. He's 5'11 and 3/4 and was like 320, and now he's beating Riley Smith in marathons.
Dude is David Goggins. He's 240. Looks good. Yeah, that was a tough day for me.
Back to that Washington game, that first play was zone to the right. I made the ID on the Will linebacker, and Roger was at right guard. And I went, all right, this offensive line will be okay today if Roger is confident that he can get the job done, right? Like, I was looking out for my dog, and I snapped the ball, and it was like a 2-eye or a 3-tech, whatever, didn't matter. But I did not even look at that linebacker for a second. I went straight to that D tackle's hip, and that linebacker shot, and it was like a 1-yard run. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But me and Roger displaced that D tackle just so, in my mind, I'm like, all right, Roger's going to be happy. He's going to be comfortable in his head. He's got that first play out of the way, because that's how I am. It's always that first play. Once you get the first play out, you're good to go.
Moving.
But I wanted to make sure that Roger was feeling good. Like, I was really looking out for Roger on that first play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mind you, go back, Sundays we get graded on every single play, and that was like a 1.5 for me. Your average play is a 2.5. If you're doing pretty solid, it's a 3. If you do something above and beyond, it's like a 3.5.
Yeah, that'll be a good topic to talk about, the grading system. It's so skewed.
Oh, it's awful.
But another good question. I know we can't say all of them, but Chad Boca said, did the O-line ever have funny calls to the line of scrimmage before the play?
Some of them we don't want to share because we want to give stuff away.
Yeah, right. Some of them we can't.
Some of them just might not be appropriate.
Yes, that's absolutely the line.
If you ever see me walking down the street and you're like, hey, I asked that question from that podcast, I'll tell you one-on-one, but I'm not going to put it on the internet.
I will
absolutely, there are some great calls. There's 3 off the top of my head that I'm just like,
and
that's
there's
terrible.
Amazing blitz names too.
Oh, yes.
When the two safeties and linebacker go through the A gap.
3 in the A gap.
You can
3 in the
get
A gap.
Imaginative, but I always thought it was fun. We would make stuff up all the time, like just to mess with the D end, like
the D line,
because we were chipping a lot to where like they always had to side eye us, and I would talk to the tackle and say gibberish, knowing that I'm about to run a route, just so he has to kind of sit there and think a little bit. But that's a great question. Fun. And yeah, you got to find Garrett on the street and ask him, because there are a lot of great ones that are got to be
But
kept.
sometimes pretty simple, like just
Yeah, a lot of times.
Spanish or
It is fun. I will say that's one of my favorite parts of football
every
is coming
different
up
way
with
you
the
can
names.
say 1, 2, or 3. Uno, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like whatever.
Your like you practice against the same guys every day,
Yeah.
and run the same plays every day. Like the defense learns your stuff eventually.
Right.
So
Most of the time, all those calls were, most of the time, not all, used in practice, even more so in games, right?
Right.
yeah, absolutely in practice,
Because
just to get
what
like
you were saying.
just to get our guys off of, what they think they know about our offense. You throw something in there, D linemen are dumb enough to go, oh, that's a different word. I don't remember that, but it's the same exact play.
I think,
Yeah.
like, to that point, like Hank's favorite thing to do used to be the fake audible.
Oh. And he thought he was on Hollywood and was being extremely dramatic with it.
And then it became a
I
little bit of
love
a
it,
deal
dude.
for everybody. But, it just, that's, I think one of those things, when you get to a game, it didn't matter that much.
It really
fake
does.
audible,
Yeah.
but in practice, it does.
Yeah.
The defense absolutely knows what
Right.
they're checking to.
For sure.
Talking about Hank, I think one of the funnier memories I have with him, we were on the 2-yard line in the south end zone. I forget who it was against, but it was a goal line play. And goal line for us is like
Inside the 2.
it's showtime. Like it's on, right?
Oh yeah.
And Hank's, doing his stuff, making his calls, ready, getting ready to run through his cadence, and he pauses and he goes, I called south, right? Because I think at that time it was like south and north, I don't know, whatever it was for our directions left and right. So a half a second before he's getting ready to snap the ball, he's asking the offensive line what direction.
And you guys are like on tilt.
Oh, I'm
full
like,
tilt,
ready to roll.
First word you hear,
And
you're ready
Hank's
to go.
asking, hey, I called that, right? Confirming in the pre-snap.
Okay.
What play he called.
This is I've got a good story, but also just things that have happened. I played quarterback. Riley played quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, especially when you're younger, you're going through so much stuff to get everybody else to play.
Oh yeah.
That you really are like. When I was playing, the quarterback controlled the cadence like every play. So I called on 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of built into the system. All that.
That's why the wristbands were nice, because I swear I would call the play and I would walk up and like, oh shit, what play is it? I don't even know what I'm doing.
So
there's a lot.
So this is the good story, and one of the relative to the wristband especially, but one of the places I coached, we got a quarterback out there, and he's a young guy, hadn't played much, and so we put him on the wristband, and we'd signal in, like 1 and flip it, 2 and flip it, whatever, or 2 left hash, whatever. He couldn't handle that, he couldn't. So normally you would just say right 24 power or something, and if you were on the other hash, it'd be left 25 power, and everybody would know it, whatever. Well, he couldn't handle it. Sometimes he'd go left 24 power, he'd flip one and not the other, all that. So we tried to underline it, like, hey, these are the ones you need to flip. Right. That didn't work. So then we had to go, like, play 1 was left 25 power, and play 2 was right 24 power. And then we'd have, like, RPO stuff on the outside. And really it was just like now screens. Like, just throw the ball if the guy's way off and let the receivers go.
Right.
So it'd be like X now. And he'd turn around, fire it to the Z who's blocking. And so then it just had to become now, and both guys had to do it.
Yeah.
You never knew. And it was so all that going on, he's struggling to figure that out. And, God bless him, he's playing his ass off and trying whatever. But then he goes, we're huddling. He reads the play in the huddle, gets up to the line, taps center on the butt, goes back and rereads the play.
That's scary.
And then like, hut, and God only knows what was going to happen at that point.
Oh yeah. And
so the guy, I mean, everybody on the staff's just like, oh my God, we're trying to play major college football watching this. This is whoo.
Back to that kind of point of having to flip plays in your mind. that kicked my ass for a little while. Like, you'd go through an install, you're putting in counter against a particular front, right? And then in practice, I'm expecting to run it to the right side, or run it to the left side. I can't tell you how many times Bedell got on my ass for that. There's one practice in particular that Bedell was about done with me in college football because somebody got hurt and I went from right tackle to left tackle for that practice just to fill in. And in the Harsin offense, we used to have kill plays. So it would be a one-word play that would have 2 plays attached to it, right? So you could call, left or right, whatever that initial play was, and it correlated to 2 plays. You listen to the quarterback, kill, you're running the second play. Well, I went from right tackle to left tackle. Mind you, I'm early enough in my career that I have a pretty below average understanding of offensive football in college, right? So I'm memorizing things based on like what I'm seeing on paper. I don't have a true understanding of the play yet, right? I go from right to left tackle, and it was counter one direction to power the other direction.
Yep.
And at right tackle, that's easy enough to remember. But then flipping it and going to left tackle, having to flip it in my mind on which assignment is more important to me, depending on what side I was. It was just an indie period.
You're spinning.
It was an indie period. And I think the tight ends were over there. And I messed it up like 4 times in a row. And I think Coach Bedell told me just to quit and go back home to San Diego.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I got on my ass pretty good. But no, trying to remember some of those kill plays, like when you have
but then I would say this, like there's a hard learning curve at the start, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then at some point it clicks for you, and you're like, hey, if I can run the Boise State offense, like I can run anything.
Right. 100%.
And that's why, I'm looking at George, like go driving back across and pick up the safety blitz. I'm like, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is. We definitely have a very, especially through the years, we definitely had a challenging offense. I remember the kill plays you're talking about. Didn't we have somewhere it was 3 plays?
Yeah.
You could kill it or you could check it.
Yep.
And
it's kill or turbo. Turbo
so it was very, very intense. And but once, like you said, once
a lot
it
of
clicks
work for the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would be tripping. And especially when we had practice in the afternoon, I don't think I learned a single thing in school. I was sitting there with the playbook, just trying to memorize the 5 plays I was going to run as a freshman that day. And it was intense, but it's
a lot of fun too.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
And I would say that's something I think I couldn't say unique to Boise State, but certainly special about Boise State is the pride that guys take in learning that. And again, everybody as a freshman gets yelled at and like whatever, but I mean, sometimes it's like
it's one of our pillars in the locker room, football intelligence.
Yeah.
It's absolutely something that's
huge.
Boise State
football
culture.
I mean, sometimes we'd use the same kill word week to week because we knew it was on TV or whatever.
Right.
And it went from one thing to one thing one week, and the next thing went from something else to something else.
Or they would get creative. Like they would come up with the funniest names. Like they would do like Halle Berry.
Yeah.
And then I think the best thing was, as a freshman quarterback, coming up with the signals was awesome. I would say that was probably one of the peak jobs I had throughout college football, was coming up with signals, because that was, you had to get creative and everybody would see it.
I will just say this, they were a lot more creative before the TV networks put a camera everywhere.
I bet. Yeah. I bet. Now you're getting caught.
Talking about like that learning curve though, once you got past that and you had a really good base of kind of offensive football and your offensive scheme, that's when it got even more fun for me, because like each player, there's always a sliding scale of like how much you know about offense versus how much you know about defense. Like if you don't know a ton about offense, it's hard to know a lot about defense. But as you learn more about offense, you get more comfortable. You don't have to put as much time into that each week to just make sure you're doing your job right. Like you get to start
focus
looking
on
into
the
the other side, figuring out what
well,
the defense
because
is
at
doing.
some point you know how to block zone, right?
Right.
I mean,
you know the footwork, you know what to do.
So once that becomes second nature, and then you start seeing things on the line of scrimmage, like, oh my God, I watched this at 6:30 p.m. on a Tuesday after I did that one assignment. I know
but I
know it's coming.
I do think one of the things, and this goes back to when I was around the first time, Coach Pete was the offensive coordinator, and he would tell stories about NFL guys like, coach me like I'm a rookie, and so that's why everything always starts at 0.
Yeah.
And I think guys here do a good job. Now, at some point we progress faster than, you definitely start at 0, but maybe you're moving a little bit faster through it when you've got more experienced guys. But even the experienced guys, the point I was trying to make is they're sitting there taking notes, and I can't tell you how many guys are like, after year 3, like, oh,
yeah,
now
Makes sense.
like, yeah, I totally get it now, because now I understand more about the whole concept, not just memorizing what I'm doing.
I agree.
Also, like from, spring ball, you go through a cycle, summer camp, you go through a cycle, to fall camp, you go through a cycle, right? Like you're kind of starting from
and really
0.
even an off season in January, right?
Right. Like, winter, like there's 3 full cycles you kind of go through. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen the same slide that Coach Keenan's put together about an offensive lineman's stance. Like our fundamentals are harped on that often. Like I go through that week 0 install every year, several times a year, but that's part of it. Like if you don't have those fundamentals totally nailed down, like you don't have a foundation to build anything off of at all.
No question.
For sure.
No question.
Awesome.
Want to clarify one thing about the Gatorade bottles where you're cooling yourself off. They were just Gatorade bottles. The squeeze, Powerade, squeeze
water
bottles,
and ice,
water in them. So it's actually pouring water and ice.
Sky shit. Said sticky Gatorade down the trousers.
That's nuts.
That's only on game day.
Only on game day.
That's psychotic shit right there.
And not in the white pants or Dale.
Dale, you'll be off the team. But but awesome. I think that's it for tonight. And
there is somebody put something up. It was kind of a cool deal. ESPN.com had a big story on Malachi today.
Yeah,
which really cool. Positive deal for Boise State. As always, somebody somewhere in here I saw, what do you think about the quarterbacks? Hey, we're not, Riley and I and our guests, like we're not at practice every day. We might see some things, but I think it's totally unfair to speculate on things that we're not there for all the time.
I agree.
Garrett, somebody asked a little bit about, what would you expect from the O-line? And I will give him that chance to answer that. But I would expect him to say something like they're going to be the basic pillars of what we expect the O-line to be.
And with the QB situation, like the only thing I will say is I know both of them and they're both great guys.
Absolutely.
And they are trying their hardest and they're studying their ass off.
We're going to be in great shape
working.
no matter what happens.
Whichever way we go, we're going to be extremely successful. And I wish both of them luck. But as a fan now, I'm not worried about it at all. Whoever gets picked to be that guy, the team's going to back them and they're going to lead us to a championship.
And we're going to need depth at some point.
We're going to need depth. So at the end of the day, like we have 2 great guys in the running, and no matter what happens, however it plays out, I'm going to be happy.
There's certainly nobody better to judge that competition than the guy that's judging it.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. I think that so we'll go back in time a little bit to the Hank Talon battle early on, right?
Yep.
I can't tell you how disappointed I was in Bronco Nation, unfortunately, when Hank got banged up on a play, and our home crowd cheered when Talon was coming in. That shook me up. I was pissed, right? Because regardless of what these fans that are watching from an outside think they know about, one guy to the next guy, what the better, decision is for the team, right? You have no clue. You just don't. You have no say. You just don't, right? That season unfolded how it did, whatever, right? So the transfer portal, that whole deal. Had Hank stayed the course, I would have been behind him
absolutely
the entire way, and
it probably would have turned out
in that locker
good that way too. So
there's a level of respect that each player has for each other based on the work that these individuals put together in the off season, and they know what kind of guy they are because you work with them every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You trust them, you know what they're doing, right? Or on the flip side, you know, all right, this guy's probably not fit for that job. But there are individuals that, fine, maybe don't totally pan out all the way, but have done everything right through that process and don't deserve the hate that they get at times.
Right.
This program does an incredible job of putting the right guy in the right position. And sometimes, you know, the cards fall as they may. But the prep that gets put in by this team, that's the only thing I'll say that I know for sure.
Yeah.
The prep that's being put in,
They're working.
is
I
unmatched.
think that's a very great perspective from a guy that was on the field, listening to that.
Yeah.
You know, and experiencing it, being a part of it, all that stuff. So appreciate that. But
For sure.
what do you expect from the O-line? And you could probably get it down to 4 things, or
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to be well put together. They're going to be very intelligent. Coach Keene will have them dialed in. There is a standard of physicality that's been set before I even joined the program, right? These standards have always been in our room, and they've always been tough standards to live up to. Coach Keene will set the bar higher than any fan or individual that thinks they know what's going on. He'll set the bar higher, and there are individuals that will set the bar that high as well. And it's up to the rest of the people in that room to match that. And that's the challenge all year long, is to try to match that standard that's been set and paid before us.
they'll be tough,
Consistently.
physical, and smart at the
Yep.
end of the day.
At the end of the day.
You know that's going to come. And,
No
and they've
doubt.
been really honing that going against a great D-line. Obviously, we're all offensive guys, so we talk way more offense. We'll get a defensive guy on here
Yeah.
next week or something, but
For sure.
maybe in 2 weeks. But, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's something that's always going to be there. And the competition, you know, coming from the defensive side makes practice harder in games. And that's
Definitely.
what it's always supposed to be.
Yep.
Now,
That's how it should be.
That's what it's always been.
Absolutely.
good. I'll let you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Garrett. Well, shout out Mariah for letting Garrett take some time off and
Absolutely.
come hang out with us. We're sending him home to change some diapers now.
Absolutely. Yep.
But Garrett, thank you as well for coming out
great.
here.
Thanks
One
for
of my
having me.
best friends,
Anytime.
dude. One of the best O linemen. And
Absolutely.
it's been an honor to kind of be your friend and learn from you these past 6 years. And
Appreciate you.
now we're working together. So it's pretty badass. But
Chapter.
Come on
Absolutely.
down next week. Join us. We had a decent crowd. Got a little bit late.
yeah.
Still got a few people out here.
Yeah.
So coming down, join us. Make sure you go support Jackson's.
For sure.
Get yourself I think the deal's the Ahmed sack, right? So
Yeah.
we still got to wait a couple weeks for that.
You better get his mind right,
Yeah.
though, because I'm trying to take
We
advantage
got
of that.
the breezy bundle or something.
Yeah.
Something.
for
But
sure.
hey, in 2 weeks, you know, that'll be game week. So
Yeah.
as many people here in 2 weeks as we can get.
For sure.
Support
Ask
the
live
guys.
questions.
Yeah.
We'll it'll be a great show. And next week we got someone lined up that's gonna be awesome. It'll be a funny show for sure, and it'll be
No doubt.
it'll be great. So
Might bring an alternate personality with him. You never know.
You never know. You never know. But ask questions on Twitter throughout the week or Instagram, and we'll just keep showing up on Tuesday nights and talk some ball with you guys. But once
Thanks
again,
for
Garrett,
tuning
we
in.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks
and,
for coming.
Yeah, go Broncos.